Some esoteric traditions claim that death isn't an escape, but the beginning of a process that strips the soul of everything it remembers. In this video, we're diving into ancient doctrines that describe a hidden system governing the fate of consciousness once the body collapses. Several mystery schools argued that powerful entities oversee a cycle where human souls are intercepted, reorganized, and redirected back into physical existence. The goal of this analysis is to understand how these teachings originated, why so many traditions shared the same warning, and what they believed happens in the moments after you die. Let's begin what the soul recycling machine actually is. We need to establish exactly what we're talking about when we use the term soul recycling machine, because this concept is far more sophisticated and disturbing than most people realize. This is not a physical machine in any conventional sense. You won't find it in the material universe, won't detect it with instruments, won't see it with physical eyes. Rather, it's a system, a metaphysical apparatus that exists in what ancient traditions called the astral or intermediate planes. The levels of reality that exist between pure spirit and dense physical matter. Think of it as the spiritual infrastructure of the material cosmos, the operating system that manages the flow of consciousness in and out of physical incarnation. To understand this, we need to look at how Gnostic cosmology describes the structure of reality. According to texts like the Apocryphon of John, one of the most important Gnostic scriptures discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, reality is divided into multiple levels. At the highest level is the Pleioma, which means fullness, the realm of infinite divine consciousness, where the true God called the Mon, or the One exists along with the eons, which are emanations or expressions of divine qualities. This is pure spirit, infinite, eternal, perfect, beyond all limitation or suffering. But below the Pleioma, separated from it by what the texts call a veil or boundary, is the material cosmos, the physical universe we inhabit. And crucially, according to Gnostic teaching, this material universe was not created by the true God. Instead, it was created by a lesser being, a false god called the Demiurge. The Apocryphon of John gives this being the name Yaldabaoth and describes it as ignorant, arrogant, and jealous. Yaldabaoth believes itself to be the only God, the supreme being, not realizing it is merely an emanation from a higher source, a flawed offspring that broke away from the divine unity. The text describes how Yaldabaoth, in its ignorance and pride, declared, "I am God, and there is no other God beside me." But a voice came from above saying, "You are mistaken, Samuel," which means blind God. This reveals the fundamental delusion at the heart of the Demiurge's nature. It believes itself supreme, but it's actually a limited, ignorant entity operating within a reality it doesn't fully comprehend. The Demiurge creates the material cosmos as a kind of closed system, a prison or sandbox separate from the infinite Pleroma. And to populate this cosmos, to give it life and consciousness, the Demiurge needs souls. But here's the fundamental problem. The Demiurge cannot create true consciousness. Only the ultimate divine source, the Mon, can generate consciousness, the ability to be aware, to experience, to know. The Demiurge can create matter, can shape physical forms, can establish laws and structures in its material cosmos, but it cannot generate the consciousness that would make these forms truly alive, truly aware. So the Demiurge must somehow capture fragments of divine consciousness, sparks of the true God's infinite awareness, and trap them in material bodies. According to Gnostic teaching, through a flaw or crisis in the emanation process that the texts describe in elaborate mythological language, fragments of divine consciousness, sparks of the monard's infinite awareness, fell or were drawn into the Demiurge's material creation. These divine sparks became trapped in physical bodies, imprisoned in flesh, and human beings are the result. Divine consciousness imprisoned in material form. Divine light trapped in darkness. Infinite awareness compressed into finite, limited mortal vehicles. This is where the soul recycling machine comes in. It's the mechanism the Demiurge has constructed to keep these divine sparks trapped, to prevent them from returning to the pleroma, and to maintain a constant supply of consciousness to animate and sustain the material cosmos. Its function is threefold, and we need to understand each function in detail, because together they form an almost perfect trap. First, the machine controls the transit between life and death, managing the movement of souls from physical bodies into the afterlife realms and back into new physical bodies. When you die, your